Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. If we're meeting for the first time, I'm an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And I have the most wonderful job. I spend my days facilitating angel sessions and soul mentoring sessions and classes designed to inspire your spirit. It is truly a joy for me to be able to connect with you, whether it's through this podcast or through working with you one-on-one or in one of my classes. And you can also sign up for my mailing list at my website, illuminatingsouls.com. There's 2 different mailing lists you can opt into. The first one is at the top of the page. And if you sign up for that one, you'll get all of my announcements and my newsletter. And then at the bottom of the page, you'll see a form for the daily inspiration email blast. And you will receive an inspiring email from me every weekday. I also post daily over at Facebook at my Illuminating Souls page. So if you have liked my page in the past, but you haven't seen any content from me, you can go over there and like or comment on something, and hopefully I'll show back up in your feed. But for now, you found your way here. Isn't that wonderful? I think this podcasting thing is so cool that I can sit in front of this microphone. Right now it's a Saturday morning. We're expecting a lot of rain this weekend, so I'm ready to cozy up, which is such a wonderful vibration for recording this for you. And I can record this, and then it goes out all over the world. We have listeners from around the world, and I just think that is so cool. So thank you so much for finding your way here. So you may be new to the world of sleep podcasts. You may use this during your waking hours. I know many of you use this to keep you company as you commute to work or go for a walk or go about your day. And if you do want to use this as a sleep aid, what I recommend is you curl up on in bed in whatever way works best for you. And what I do as a avid listener of sleep podcasts is I use wired earphones and I pick my episode and then I turn the volume down lower than I would if I were listening to an audiobook. And then I set the sleep timer to end at the end of the episode. And almost always I am out before the episode completes. And that is why each of these episodes is an hour long, so that you have plenty of time to drift off. And if you need more than that, you can always set up a playlist. That I've purposely designed this podcast so you can flow from one episode into the other without there being loud music or a deeply recognizable musical bridge or something like that might wake you up. I just pretty much ramble like this for the whole hour. So, welcome to the rambling, loving, angelic light-filled podcast that is Sleepy Bedtime Blessings. So as I record this, I feel so much love coming in. And I'm so grateful to have this time with you. That even if we've never met, I have felt the promise of you. You know, as we open up to divine love, we can feel into the expansiveness of our soul family. Even if we never meet in physical world reality, We are part of the same matrix of light, and we share similar values and prayers and intentions. So if you are listening, here's what I believe I know about you. I believe that you are someone who values kindness. I know that sounds so trite, and you think, well, everybody values kindness. Not really. Not really. Look around the world, and you will absolutely find people that don't value kindness, but you do, and I do. Isn't that wonderful? And in all likelihood, you have a generosity of spirit. You are uplifted when you have the opportunity to uplift others. And I just want you to know that I acknowledge this about you, and I am grateful for the gift of you. So I'm going to invite the angels in to be with us. They're already here, but I love sharing the ritual of the angels with you, and maybe you're new to the world of angels too. And just so you know, when I talk about the angels, it's in a non-denominational way, not affiliated with any religious practice. I believe that we dwell in a loving universe and that there are beautiful beings of light who are here to love and support us as we move through our lifetime here in the physical realm. I really believe that we are divine beings having a human experience. So that we're these beautiful, expansive souls in a human experience. And part of the human experience means when we are born, we go through the portal of amnesia, as my guides call it, and we forget about all of that. And so we completely identify with our human life. And for some of us, we feel a longing to reconnect with our more light-filled essence, and the angels are here to help with that. So you, my beautiful friend, are a divine being having a human experience, and the angels are ambassadors of our vibrational home. So they come to you with a tremendous amount of love, and they know who you are, and they know what's in your heart, and they love you. They don't just love the lovable parts of you, they love everything that you are, because they understand the complexity of having a human incarnation. They know the truth of your soul, and your soul is so beautiful. So just, if you would like to join me in taking a nice deep breath in and just letting go of whatever your it is that you are guided to let go. Letting go of the day that has been, letting go of anything that feels heavy to you, letting go of the sharp edges within your own consciousness where you might be judging yourself harshly. Just taking a nice deep breath in and letting it go. As the angels infuse the space you are in with a beautiful, divine love that has been calibrated just for you. So I am going to invite the angels in because I enjoy sharing the ritual with you. So beautiful angels on high, I am so grateful for our time together. I invite you to join us, and I ask that you amplify your loving presence to make it easier for each one of us to receive and become aware of the love that is present. Please help us remember that each one of us is loved every moment, every breath of our lives. That even when this does not feel true, it is true. that the love is here. And as we open up to it, our relationship with this love grows deeper and deeper and deeper still. And so, beautiful friends, just take a lovely breath in and out and give yourself permission to receive the love the angels are bringing to you. The angels hear your prayers. They are here supporting you. They are encouraging you. And so if you have prayers in your heart, if you would like some support from the angels, all you have to do is ask them. You don't have to stand on ceremony. You don't have to light a candle or say a certain prayer. All you have to do is ask. You wouldn't believe how often I forget to ask. And I do this work all the time. It is not uncommon for me to get all twisted up in my own stuff because I'm a human being. And more often than not, when I go to my husband and talk to him about whatever it is that I am swimming in, he will say, "Have you talked to your friends yet about this?" And that is code for, "Have I talked to the angels about this yet?" And my answer is always no, 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 because in that moment I have forgotten about the angels. So interesting. I do this work all the time, and I forget because I'm a human being. And so I always appreciate his reminder to me, because when I am caught up, wrapped up in my own dramatic stuff, I get amnesia about remembering that I can ask for help. I get forgetful about the fact that I can ask for help. So if I forget to ask for help, maybe you do too. So let's ask for help together, whatever you need help with. I've got my own list. You've got yours. Just bring it into your mind's eye, into your heart. And we'll just say, hey, angels, can you help with all this stuff? Please make it easy and graceful and joyful and fun, and bring healing to that which is up for healing. To bring in grace and ease, to help clear away our fears that are unnecessary. You know, it's not that I don't think we should never feel fear. Sometimes fear is appropriate. If there's a tiger on the loose, for instance, okay to feel scared. But I would offer up for myself that probably a good 90% of the things I'm afraid of, I don't need to be afraid of. I just happen to be one of these people that seems to have a very active imagination that can sometimes veer off into the swamp of fear. But I'm sure you can't possibly relate to that, right? So let's take a deep breath in and let's take a fear bath of just getting all the fear bathed off of us, like a energetic car wash. Let's just clear all that stuff off. All that stuff that we don't need to worry about. All of that, that stuff that is made up of other people's gunk. The stickiness of other people's experiences that we don't need to take on. Let's just take some breaths in, allowing ourselves to be liberated from the unnecessary fear that we might have taken on that doesn't even belong to us. So let's take another deep breath in, just letting this love and this joyful energy flow through. And I invite you to cozy on up and snuggle on in, especially if it is your bedtime. And know that love surrounds you. Love is with you. You are precious in this world. You are a blessing in this life. And the angels and I are so deeply grateful for the gift of you. You are a remarkable soul, a remarkable human being. And just like me, you are blossoming open into the new. This new, interesting, little bit mysterious time of awakening that we are going through. So I invite you to have faith in yourself. Have faith in you. Because the angels have faith in you. And you don't even need to know what that means. Just to breathe in and allow us to remind you that you are so much more than you know. You are a big, bright, beautiful soul. And grace and love and goodness is flowing to you. I affirm this is true. So I wish you the sweetest of dreams, and I invite you to cozy up and get comfortable. And the angels will stay with you as we move on over to Storytime. And for this Storytime, I'm going to be answering the invitation the angels brought to me. And I don't really know how and where this is going to go, but for the past, week or so, when I asked what I should make an episode about, the angels said, tell them about Tarrytown. And I thought, really? Like, that's not one of the happier times of my life. Do I really need to tell them about Tarrytown? And they just responded, tell them about Tarrytown. And I thought, okay, because when I hear those kinds of messages, I know that something really beautiful happens when I follow the line of energy. So I normally talk to you about things that are really lighthearted or have happy endings. And just so you know, don't get worried. There's nothing tragic or horrible about the story I'm going to tell you. But it's a story about a time in my life that was really hard. And I felt lost. And I just had to get through it. And I think part of the reason I'm being asked to share this with you is on the journey of self-growth and the spiritual path, we like to give a lot of power to beliefs like everything happens for a reason and you create your own reality, and like many spiritual beliefs are like tools in a toolbox. And if you're a master carpenter, you don't need a hammer for every single job. Sometimes you need a crescent wrench. And I think that law of attraction and your thoughts create your reality, and we're always responsible for what we experience, and everything happens for a reason, and all of those things can get us so messed up, especially when life feels hard. It's like, what am I doing wrong? What if you're not doing anything wrong? What if this is just a passage in your life that is hard? So, this is my story of Tarrytown. Tarrytown, New York, to be clear. So, to start the story about Tarrytown, I have to share with you how I got there, which is at the end of 93, I lost my job. I was laid off because the company was having financial problems, which is never fun. You know, I think many of us of a certain age at some point have involuntarily lost a job. And it's not a good experience. A few weeks later, we had the massive Northridge earthquake in LA. So that terrified me. Now, there's a reason to be scared, right? I'm not trying to scare you. I just mean, well, that fear was understandable, right? Versus other fears that aren't based in reality. So, two really big upheaval things were taking place, and I needed to find another job. And in the work that I was doing, it wasn't easily translatable into a job market that was filled with opportunities for me. It was a very niche skill that I had. So I was consulting for a company for a little while, and I had two meaningful job interviews. One was going to be for a company in Hartsdale, New York, which is in Westchester County, near Tarrytown, and the other was for an entertainment company in Atlanta. So these were the two jobs that really had potential for me. The gentlemen that owned the company in Hartsdale, New York, were profoundly successful in the music industry. And whenever they came to Los Angeles, they would stay at the Peninsula Hotel, which is a over-the-top, wonderful luxury hotel in Beverly Hills. And a few months after I got laid off, they offered me a job. And it was a really great offer. It was work that I felt would be really exciting for me. And they offered me the job based on our meetings that we had in Los Angeles. And the reason that's important is because I never did go to their offices in Hartsdale for any of the interviews. So I agreed to move to that area sight unseen. You know, I had synthesized that Westchester County, Hartsdale, White Plains were like suburbs of New York. What did I know? I didn't know anything. All I knew is that I had grown up in the suburbs of Chicago, in Skokie, and all of the suburbs around there. And I lived in Los Angeles, which was a giant metropolis of orbiting cities. You know, Burbank, North Hollywood, Chatsworth. So my reference points were Los Angeles and Chicago, so I thought New York was very similar. And this was pre-internet. The internet was just starting. It was right around the time that AOL was the big deal, that every magazine you picked up, it would have an AOL disk to sign up. That was as close to the internet as mainstream America was getting. So here I was. I needed a job. I was sort of in a traumatic response from all the upheaval. And I thought, well, these guys, they stay at the Peninsula. It must be a nice company, right? It must be nice. And so I agree. I agree to move sight unseen to Westchester County, New York. And I fly there for a few days to look for an apartment. How hard could that be? How hard? I never had trouble finding an apartment. And my friend Kirsten was actually in Connecticut on a business trip. And so she arranged to meet me at the airport. And I flew into White Plains Airport. Now, White Plains Airport has since been upgraded. But back in 1994, it was really small. You disembarked on the stairs onto the tarmac. And do you guys remember the sitcom Wings? I thought, I'm in an episode of Wings, because to get my luggage, there was a guy who had all the luggage lined up. And then you would point to the luggage and you'd say, mine is that burgundy one. And he'd say, this one here? And you'd say, yes. And he would hand it to you. Now, I don't know if this was the usual way the airport worked or if maybe they were just going through construction. I don't have any reference point for it. All I know is some guy asked me which piece of luggage was mine and handed it to me. So I got my luggage, and in the suburbs of Chicago and in the suburbs of Los Angeles, there's a lot of suburban sprawl along the freeways. So there's lights and there's gas stations and 7-Elevens and things like that, billboards. So Kirsten and I start driving down the freeway, and it's dark, and there's only trees. It looks rural. And I said to Kirsten, I said, what's happening? Where is everything? She says, this is it. I said, what do you mean? And we were going to be staying in a hotel in Tarrytown. Now, Tarrytown is an adorable historic town. Lovely place. It's on the Hudson River, and there's the Tappan Zee Bridge that takes you over into Nyack, into Nyack, New York, and New Jersey, and it's darling, and it's historic. Did I mention it's historic? Because it is, which meant that there were rules about how much lights the store could have, like the 7-Eleven was a historic 7-Eleven, sort of not lots of modern signage and stuff like that. And so we get to our hotel, and I'm like, Kirsten, where are we? What's going on? And she was very supportive of me. And the next day we had an appointment with a realtor who was going to take us to look at apartments. And in the meanwhile, though, in the morning, we drove over to the address of the building I would be working in Hartsdale. So we're driving up the street, and there's this really old, shabby building that we pass by. And I think, well, that can't possibly be it. These are guys who stay at the Peninsula Hotel. This can't be the building. And so we're driving up and down the street. Then I realized that's the building, this shabby building. So again, for like the umpteenth time, I say to Kirsten, what is happening? What's happening? This is the building? And then we meet up with a realtor who takes us looking for apartments, and I had my cap on what I would spend. And she shows us horrible apartments, like someone's basement that has indoor-outdoor carpeting in it. And I said to her, I can't live here. This isn't going to work. And so that was a bust. That day was a bust. And Kirsten had to leave. So I drop her off at the airport, or something like that. I don't even remember the details of that. And then the next day I say to the realtor, well, then you know what? Let's bump up my budget. I think my cap had been $1,000 because it was the 90s, and I went up to $1,200. And she said, okay, listen, I think I have a place, but if you want it, you have to decide while we're there, because apparently the apartment market in Westchester County was really tight. I've shared this story in another episode. I don't remember which one, but I'll move through it quickly. So she takes me to this really ginormous, beautiful house that had been divided up into apartments. There was the basement apartment, the first floor, the second floor, and the attic. So I was being shown the first floor apartment, which was big, probably 2,000 square feet. And apparently what had happened is another couple had looked at it in the morning, but the tenant's boyfriend got really angry with them and I guess caused a scene. And so for some reason the couple's like, we're out of here. I don't even want to think about this place, which is why I got to see it and the boyfriend was not there. And I looked at it and it was beautiful. And I said, I'll take it. And she says, we need to go back to the office right now so you can write a check and then it will be yours as long as you pass, the credit check and everything. So we go back to the office. I'm writing out my check, and that couple calls back. And they're like, you know what? We'll take it. And she said, it's too late. I've just accepted this woman's deposit check. So I guess in that way things were, being taken care of for me. But there was this weird vibe. Like, what have I just done? I've just moved to a city that I don't know anything about. Like, what am I doing? So the apartment was great, and they would take my dog, and I ultimately had to get a roommate because it was expensive for me. So I'm going to just sort of go past that part. So now I'm living in Tarrytown, working for this company, which was a good company to work for, even though the building was shabby. That's okay. There are shabby buildings in the world. And I'm trying to make a life there. And perhaps this is the part of the story of Tarrytown that the angels are really guiding me to share with you. So I was at a period in my life where my happiness was not necessarily based in self-love and self-worth. It wasn't anchored within me. It was based in what was around me and in my life. So when I was in Los Angeles, I had wonderful friends, and I had an interesting job, and I had my dog, and I had a beautiful apartment with my cousin, and there were many things in my life that brought me happiness. And I wasn't really comfortable in my own skin. Like, that happiness wasn't something I could own. I don't know how to explain that. And in my life now as Laurel, I love myself. Now, I don't mean this in this egoic, I am so awesome way. I mean, I have profound compassion, understanding, and I hold myself with loving, and I understand myself, and I don't think I understood myself back then. I kept waiting for my life to start. I thought my life would start when I meet my partner, so I was in my 30s at this point. My husband's got to come along at some point because I knew I would get married. At some point I would lose the weight. Those were the two things. My husband's going to come along, and I'm going to lose the weight, but I'll probably have to lose the weight before my husband comes along, and other things. But I kept waiting for my real life to start. So I thought, maybe I'll meet my husband in Tarrytown, right? Always the optimist. Well, life there actually felt kind of lonely. When I moved to Los Angeles, it seemed to me, I was young, I was in my 20s, and it was so easy to meet people. It seemed like the best and the brightest of people from around the country and around the world migrated to Los Angeles because they had big dreams. So you would meet somebody who's a screenwriter or a filmmaker, and there was this beautiful creative synergy, and I was young, and we traveled around in packs of friends, and it was so easy to meet people because almost everybody was from somewhere else. And if they were from there, then they introduced you to all their friends. Because I got very lucky in that I met some people who were from Los Angeles, and I got assimilated into their friends group. In fact, one of the guys I met back then still does my taxes to this day. So, dividends, right? Payoff. What I experienced, though, in Tarrytown and Westchester County in general, were so many of the people who I met had lived there their whole lives. And so they already had their friend group. They already had their cousins. And there wasn't this vitality of, let's bring Laurel along. I want you to meet my friend Laurel. Come with us. And then I would be assimilated into their group. I I really kind of felt very lonely when I was there. And I didn't know who I was. I was like, what am I doing with my life? What is my life? And I remember at one point I had lovely neighbors who lived in the building next to me. They were a couple. And I really loved the wife. Like, she was one of my favorite people I met when I was there. And at some point, she had brought her mother-in-law over to my apartment because she was walking my dog for me. And she was sharing with me that her mother-in-law was saying that she wished she had my life because my life seemed so beautiful, that I had this beautiful home, this beautiful bedroom, a beautiful dog. And she wished that she was me because I guess this woman was not in a happy place. And as my friend was telling me this, I was like, wow, I don't wish I was me. I wish I was someone else too. Like, what am I doing with my life? And so it was a really hard time for me. And it's interesting to me now that I did not take advantage of living kind of close to Manhattan. Later on, when I would travel to Westchester County for work when I lived in LA, and I'll fill you in on that part, I would always make sure I went to Broadway shows. I would go into the city and I would buy one ticket in the orchestra and see as many plays and musicals as I could. But in the year and a half that I lived in Tarrytown, I never did that. So Tarrytown is a beautiful town and has lots of stuff that's cool about it. So there was a lot I could like about it, but I never felt comfortable there. I never felt home. I would get up and I would walk my dog and I would go to work and I would come home and I would walk my dog and then I would watch TV and I'd go to sleep and start that all over again. I didn't have anything in my life besides work, and I didn't know how to create that. So I watched a lot of television, and thank God, right around that time, I got my first laptop computer and got on the World Wide Web. Thank God for the World Wide Web and my dial-up modem, because it reconnected me with the world. So some of the things that were super cool about Tarrytown is it's the home of the author Washington Irving, and he had his old homestead, his old farm is a historical place, and you can go visit. And one of my sister's best friends was a tour guide there, so she would get me in and take me around, so that was cool. There was a really old church from the 1700s, I think, in Tarrytown, and for Halloween, they would light candles and then read the legend of Sleepy Hollow. That was really cool. It wouldn't be a Laurel story without talking about the food. I mean, New York food, awesome. Best pizza ever. So, food was a good thing when I was there. But I never really found my groove. I was there with my dog. It was Tessa and I, and I was really homesick. At some point, I really recognized that I was homesick and I needed to go back to Los Angeles. Because all my friends were there. And I remember talking about, at the time, X-Files was airing on Friday nights. And I was saying to one of my friends, I want to have Shabbat dinner and watch X-Files on Friday nights. Like, that was my dream. I didn't want to be alone in New York anymore. And so I told the gentleman that I worked for, I had told them that I would give them a year in New York. And so I told them well before the year was up that when the year was up, I was going to move back to LA. And they were very supportive and helped pay for my moving expenses back and hired me to be a consultant. And just so you know, I was a terrible consultant. I was a terrible entrepreneur back then. It was so hard. And so I wound up going back to Los Angeles. And life was still really hard. I mean, I had my friends, thank God. Thank God for my friends. They kept me afloat. But I was really lost. I was working as a consultant and trying to do sales, which I suck at. And I was floundering. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing with my life. Again, I was waiting for my life to start. Like, at what point do I become Laurel? At what point do I feel fulfilled? And do I have my life intact? And all through this, I was profoundly loved. My parents loved and supported me. My friends loved and supported me. So it's not as if I didn't have anyone in my corner. I was well loved and supported. But there's this beautiful lyric I've quoted to you before from a song from David Wilcox, and it says, "There's a break in the cup that holds love inside of me." And I think I was just so in the loneliness of my cup that kept running out. And this went on for several years. Ultimately, the company that I'd worked for in New York hired me back full time in another capacity. And I wound up working for that company until I left to create Illuminating Souls. The company ultimately expanded and grew and got purchased by a conglomerate, a bigger company. But through all of that, even though on the surface my life seemed good, I was not fulfilled. I was really having a hard time finding my way. I was in therapy. I was doing all the things I needed to do. I was talking to my friends about it. I couldn't figure out why I hadn't yet met my future husband. I really wanted to get married. I wanted to lose weight again, still with the weight. So why am I sharing all of this with you? Not only because the angels asked me to, but because I really just want to reflect to you that sometimes life is hard, and sometimes we feel lost, and it's not our fault. Did all of that happen to me because I didn't think good thoughts, or I didn't think I was worthy? No, just probably I had a bunch of planets transiting other stuff, and it was just a hard time for me. But upon reflection, here's what I can tell you. If I hadn't been so unhappy, it sounds like such a strong word. I don't know that unhappy is the right word, because there were things in my life that made me happy. But if I didn't feel so like the absence of something I couldn't describe, maybe that's the way to say it. Like, there was definitely something missing. I thought it was my future husband, but there was something missing in my life. And I really just kind of felt lost, even though I wouldn't have called it that at that point. But had things gone my way, had I had the job I really wanted, had I met a wonderful man and gotten married and had kids, like had other dreams come true, I don't know that I would be here right now with you doing this work. And I don't want to translate into, well, everything happens for a reason. I don't believe that is why I went through that transit. But it was from this place of confusion, lostness, what am I doing here kind of thing, that I found my way to the University of Santa Monica to get my master's degree in spiritual psychology. So my move to Tarrytown happened in 94. And in 95, I moved back to Los Angeles. And I had about, 4 or 5 years of kind of knocking about. Like, is this my life? Is this what I'm here to do? I did a lot of things. I was active in some Jewish singles communities, Esha Torah. Like, I kept trying to meet my person, thinking then my life starts. And I just really kind of felt like I was kind of wandering around. So after this feeling so unsettled, 2000 is the year of my awakening, and many things happened that year. And I have an episode called The Story of My Awakening where I go into it in greater detail. But I needed to find my path, and I didn't even know I was looking for my path. And that's when I found my way to the University of Santa Monica, and I dove head into their program. I knew I was going into my destiny. I said that to a friend when I was driving to USM that first Friday night. I said, I'm going to my destiny. I don't even know what that means, but I'm going to my destiny. And had this incredible experience with a chiropractor I had been working with because my back had been out and I was in so much pain. And I would just go and see him every week and cry because I hurt so badly. And one visit, he said, do you know why this is happening to you? And I said, no. He said, it's because you're not doing what you came here to do. I said, oh. He says, do you know what you came here to do? And out of seemingly nowhere, I said, I'm a healer. I'm a healer. And he said, yes, you are. And I remember thinking, where did that come from? What does that even mean? I'm a healer. I don't understand. And the next week I came back and I said, what does that mean? I'm a healer. And he said just like this. He said, well, you could go to the University of Santa Monica and get your master's degree in spiritual psychology. And I said, okay. It just dropped in as a yes. Okay, I can do that. And I'd never known anyone who'd gone to USM, and it turns out the chiropractor had never known anyone who went to USM. It just was, he'd just gotten that hit for me. And I went back to the office and I called USM and I said, I'm supposed to come. And this was September of 2000 and classes started in October. And they said, do you want to know about the program? I said, no, I don't need to know anything other than when do I need to be there? And here's my credit card. Because they had, I think, 12 spots remaining. I said, well, no, you have 11. I'm coming. So I don't necessarily believe that I went through the doldrums for 5 or 6 years so I could find my way to USM. I don't believe that we are asked to suffer. I just think that we all have times when we're in the doldrums, when we can't seem to get movement in the direction we want to go. And there are times that life is hard. We don't talk about that enough in the spiritual journey, Because we're so focused on, let's manifest, let's co-create, you're awesome, let's do great things together. And listen, I love that part. Clearly, if you have listened to the podcast, that's my favorite part of what I do. But if you've ever worked with me, you will know that I am very balanced in this work. I absolutely believe that life can be really hard, and it's not your fault. I believe storms happen. I believe we go through really hard times, and all we can do is try to get through them with as much dignity as possible and try to go through them. Because one thing I've come to believe, I'm not a good astrologer. I didn't have the patience for it. I studied it for about a year. And I have such mad respect for professional astrologers because there's a lot to it. It's not as simple as, oh, you're a Pisces, let me tell you all about yourself. But I've learned enough about astrology to know that we go through phases when things flow more easily to us. And also we go through phases when things are hard. And it doesn't have to only be because of astrology. So I'm not trying to say it's all in the stars. But I would imagine that if someone looked at my chart for 94 to 2000, that this movement and struggle would be evident. And then there would be a time for awakening. And this life that I live now is not the life that the me in 94 would have known to ask for. Yes, I have my husband. He was an important part. But my dreams were different dreams then than they are now. It's why the quote from Rilke of living the question is so powerful to me, this concept of living the question, because we're not ready for the answer. The answer of who I would become would not have fit me in 94. The me in 94 would not have understood the answer that is my life now. I had to live my way into this answer. And it's not that every moment since has been phenomenal. I have hard times just like you do. There are times I feel lost. What am I doing here? I don't mean that in the same profound way that I used to. I have a much deeper sense of purpose now. I love myself deeply now, with deep empathy and understanding for the complexity of this human journey. I'm happily married, which is the greatest blessing in my life. I have work that I love. I love, love, love what I get to do. And I'm a human being. So the angels asked me to tell you about Tarrytown, which is why I've shared this story with you. Because if you're going through a hard time, and if you feel a little bit lost, just know that it's okay. And it doesn't mean that it's precognitive of the rest of your life. I think life has seasons. And some seasons are so much harder than others. I had a terrible year in 2013. 2019 was one of the most painful years of my life. Like, there are times that are hard. And yet, I believe that resiliency can be hardwired into us when we let it be. I think like the leaves of a houseplant, that turn towards the sun, I think that is our nature. I know it is for me. I turn towards the light. I have a belief in brighter tomorrows. I don't tend to cast a lot of doom upon my future. I believe in brighter tomorrows. I believe in the resiliency of my spirit. I believe that future me has things figured out that present me is uncertain of. I believe in the continuum of life. So I am so grateful for the me. God bless my heart. I would not go back there for anything. But the me that lost my job at the end of 93, the me that was so scared in 94 of where I would wind up, and then moved to Tarrytown, New York, where I didn't know anybody. And I had that really lonely year there, even though it was a cool town, and I had a cool apartment and a great dog. I just was really lost. And then in 95, the me that moved back to Los Angeles and still felt lost, but at least I was in LA with my friends, thank God. And then the next few years of just still feeling like somehow I just needed to acclimate that this was going to be my life. But it wasn't a life that I was, like, woohoo, this is my life. That's not how I felt. Now I feel that way about my life. Like, I love my life. I don't want to trade lives with anybody. Back then I would have traded. I would have traded up. Not now. I thank God for the gift of this life that I have now. And it's so much easier for me to see blessings now. And my hope is I can help you see your blessings too. I don't think my ability to see blessings is simply because I can tick boxes off now. Because I could tick a lot of boxes off back then. I had a good life. I had friends. I had good jobs. I did cool things with people. Like, there were a lot of boxes ticked back then. But the internal structure of my beingness was more flimsy. Whereas I feel like that is much stronger now. I know who I am. And I have loving for this being that I am, this very complicated divine being having this earth girl experience. I have a lot of love and empathy for this experience of being in this lifetime. So my hope is I can help you cultivate some of this too. And if you are going through your hard time, I'm sending you so much love and light and prayers. And I invite you into this love stream that we are in together in hopes that it supports you and helps you move into your brighter tomorrows. Because I'm a big fan of brighter tomorrows. God willing, we live long enough to live our way into our brighter tomorrows, and we're like, oh, thank God I made it here. So I pray for brighter tomorrows for you. And I love you so much, and thank you for letting me share with you this very tender time of my life. Again, it's not that it was tragic or horrible, thank God. It was just hard. Sometimes life's hard. And God willing, sometimes life gets easier. So here's to easier days. And I love you so much. You're wonderful. You are resilient. You are beautiful. You are supported. You can ask the angels for help. And so take a deep breath in. And I'm just going to ask the angels to clear the energy of this broadcast through the heart of God. So anything that might have been stirred up as I shared this story can be released up into the higher realms where it can be transformed in service for the highest good of all concerned. So take a deep breath in, just allowing a deep cleansing, clearing breath of love to move through you, to breathe in peace, to breathe in the light, and to know that you are loved and supported with every breath. So, my friend, I wish you the sweetest of dreams, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. I love you, and thank you.